Hey everyone, welcome back to my Brand Chat interview series. I'm thrilled to welcome Amy Langer, who is one of my very favorite CEOs. She is the co-founder and managing partner of Salo, which is a $65 million professional services company with offices in Minneapolis and Chicago. Welcome, Amy, to the show.
Thank you, Kelly. It's really nice to be here.
Well, I just want to give some people the background on us. We have a mutual friend, Jennifer Smith, and she was kind enough to do another interview with me as well. She was kind enough to introduce us, and I had the privilege of being asked to come to your office, and I remember it vividly. Your space is beautiful. I had done a bunch of research on you about your work culture, and I really want to talk about that for my listeners and my viewers and students to really understand why that's unique. But I was so impressed. I had the tour, got to sit with you, and one of the very first questions you asked me was, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it was almost like I was kind of just hit with a baseball bat, because in that moment, I had no answer. And I thought that was just an amazing wake-up call for me, because so often, we are head down, just in the moment, just grinding, and we don't have the plan. And ever since that moment, I kid you not only have I had the plan and the loft goals and the short-term goals, but when I teach and educate all of the clients who come to me, that in fact is something that I ask them as well. So thank you for that.
That's great. I think it's awesome. You just never know what you're saying that actually resonates or not. So it actually means a lot that it resonated to you. So great.
Yes. And you are one of my very favorite people, because like Jennifer, what's so unique about the two of you, and I want you to be able to tell your story, because I want people to research you, is that you are salt of the earth. There are so many CEOs who reach a certain level of success, and they're relatively untouchable. But you have been so generous with your time, your mentorship. It's just such a refreshing thing to see that as a powerful, successful woman who is running quite a large organization. I mean, let's face facts. Your time is very precious, and the fact that you actually give it is very humbling. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and it's really fun. This is why we do it, and to not only for ourselves, but also to help others. And it's really great to be able to do. So thank you.
Yes. Well, can you share, first of all, a little bit about what Salo is, how you got to this point? I would love for you to just share your journey with my students, so that they can understand what you do, why you're here, and what your why is.
Yeah, I would be happy to. I don't know how far you want to go back, but maybe I'll just start a little bit from the back and kind of move forward. So I grew up in a small little town on a dairy farm. No one in my family had really a 4-year degree. I went to school at Michigan State with the idea of, I want to be in business somehow. And somebody said, if you want to do that, you should have an accounting degree. So I got my accounting degree from Michigan State and moved to Minnesota, not knowing one person in the whole state, and went to work at KPMG, which was an awesome place to land, a really great place to kind of learn, get my CPA, learn lots of things. And I think from an early time, when you ask when I said, what was your 5-year plan? I guess I've always had sort of this forethought of like, what am I going to do next? What's next? And then how do I have to shape these things to be able to fit into that of which I want? So what's funny is, it still happens today. It's maybe more intentional today around business plans and strategies and things like that, but I've kind of always had that. So from there, I went to more of a staffing company, and with the idea, and kind of went more on the sales side. And so between those two, and I could have been at that company for a long time, that is where I met my business partner. And the two of us had a thought. We thought, what if we could take the gap in the marketplace that existed between sort of the public accounting, which was uh, really, really great quality. A lot of, they care about relationships and how we deliver and what we're doing. And then the staffing firm that really cares a lot about sort of this just-in-time resource. And what if there was something between where you could really bring people in, create an employment model that allows people to be able to work and want to do that long term, and then also deploy them to different companies. And that's really how it started. It's been almost 15 years. So the day after September 11th is when I left my corporate America job. I sat out a period of time, and then October of 2002 is when John Folkestad and I started Salo. And really from then to now, it's just been awesome. I mean, it's ups and downs daily. There's been so many mistakes. It's like, even when you ask me about my mistakes, it's like, which one? I think a lot of it is just learning from those and trying not to do the same thing again and creating it. So when you talk about culture and brand, I think the basis of what we do, we work in accounting, finance, and human resources. We place people into companies, they work for us. So in some effect, it's a temporary placement firm. Others, it's kind of more like a consulting firm. So it's a hybrid between the two. But it's when companies need pinpointed resources at a period of time. So with that, we have a lot of deep expert knowledge here. So even our sales people come from a human resources background or come from a finance background. They're CPAs, they're MBAs. So when we get in and understand companies, that's how we do it. We understand them at a deep level. And so this intentionality around brand, intentionality around fun, intentionality around culture, I'll bring it back, but now maybe you have a little piece of where that comes from.
That's fantastic. And let's talk about the culture, because when my first taste of Salo obviously was visiting with you in your office, and getting the tour was so enlightening, because the first half of my career, I was in corporate. So I worked the 9 to 5 in a cube or in an office, very sterile, very structured. And then becoming an entrepreneur in 2004 allowed me to do things on my own terms, including work environment. But when I went to your space and I had read all these articles about how you had been recognized because of culture, and then to actually experience it, because I think that there's a visceral response when you're live, I was like, this is the coolest place on the planet. It's like Disney World in corporate.
Yeah, well, that's nice. You know, I think the space is really just a minor piece of the overall culture. It is a way that we physically express ourselves, but the culture really comes from our mission and our values. And you asked about the why to start with. Our purpose is connecting people to make a difference. That is the why that we're here, and really everyone. So everyone here just sort of has that natural connecting bone. So do you know anybody who loves to connect? Just
yes.
For fun, right? And you can see it because they start to think through, oh, I have this issue. Oh, well, you should talk to this person. You should talk to this person. It is just, and it's one of those core values that we look for in people. And so when you think about that as really our mission and our why, our space is a reflection of that. How do we create sort of an open space where those that are currently here can feel good about inviting others in, where we can host things for other people. And so a lot of our space is meant, each place is meant multi-purpose. No one has an office here. Everything is very open. We move our desks around all the time. So if you like where you're sitting now, good. If you don't like where you're sitting now, it's okay. It'll move in a little bit anyway. And so that's a piece of it. And also then that's where we pull in some of our values. So our values of how does that manifest itself in our space? Our value of connecting, clearly that one's easy. We have a value of positive energy. So how do we surprise and delight? Because when people are coming to us, there's usually something going on in their business. So it's either they're going through a career transition or thinking about a career transition or been forced into a career transition, but something's not settled for them or just want to explore what's out there. Other times on the company side, whether it's an acquisition, system change, riff, whatever's going on. And so a lot of times we meet people when they're in something that they need to get to the other end of. And so if we can provide sort of that positive influence during that time, it's all good. That's kind of
So it's such a happy place. Like you're happy people. It's all positive, just all a lot about positivity. That's what I heard you say, right?
there is a lot of that, yes.
That is so great, because there's a lot of information that I read online about how, you know, the millennials are coming into the workforce, and they're sometimes the perception is they're not that easy to work with, and there's part of me that really feels like they have it together, right? Where our generation, we didn't feel worthy unless we were, you know, knees deep in the mud, just, you know, breaking a sweat and just killing ourselves working 24/7. And then there's this new generation all about giving and, you know, just kind of just a different mindset about things. And just having experienced your anniversary party, which we're going to talk about at some point here, I felt that energy and I felt that give. I just felt everything that you just said in one place outside of your office space. So you really are bleeding the brand, honestly, through every touch point, which is so impressive.
Well, the brand and the culture for us, we're a professional services firm, and I would say this is for everybody, is our people, our employees, the people who touch us every day, how clients experience us, how the community experiences us, is all through each interaction that they have. And so what's really important for us is, as we are looking for people, can you hear the sirens? So as we're interviewing, we're also in an urban environment, so how's that? As we are interviewing, it's really important that people have our values before they come to us. So it's not wrong if they don't, it's just that they'll naturally fit in when they do. So if you naturally have positive energy, you're going to feel more at home here than if you just have to come up with it for an interview or for a place. Aware and intuitive, so is another one of our values. So how you sense what's going on, how you care about others, how you care about yourself, and how you see yourself in situations. That's something people who are better at that fit in here. And all we deal with is people day in and day out. So you kind of have to have a quality of that to be able to get here. So we just capture those and look for people who already have it. And it's not as hard.
Wow, that's great. So I want to ask you, because I asked this of all of my interviewees, there's all this talk about passion. My son actually went on a networking appointment with me with somebody that I admire. He did an interview with me as well. And Joey, my son, is struggling as a going into his junior year as a college student on what he's going to do when he graduates. Right? He's got a business major and a marketing, he's double majoring in all of this, but he's really conflicted, and he wants that purpose, right? Like he wants the direction, and all of his pals are either going to be an architect or an engineer or a vet or whatever. And so I put him in front of a good friend of mine and mentor, and the first thing he said was, Joey, find your passion. And if you live your passion in your work, you will be happy every day. And I thought that was really amazing, because one of my questions for all my interviewees is, do you find that you are living your passion through your work? Are you living it?
Yes, well, I clearly do. And so when I was a kid, the only way that my mom could punish me was to take the phone away. And that was the time when phones were on the wall with a cord, but I love talking on the phone. So the fact that I get to talk all day on the phone, connect with people, is my work. is pretty spectacular. However, if you're in college and trying to piece that together, there's no way. So where I do agree, find your passion, I think sometimes we are putting on our kids so hard, like you have to know what that is. I didn't even know this business existed when I was a kid. Well, clearly I didn't know a lot of businesses existed when I was a kid, coming from where I came from. But I think education is important. I think a mindset of growth, a mindset of continuing learning, a continue of exploring and how you do that. So, I mean, one could say I could talk on the phone and be in customer service rep. Okay, is that finding your passion? Well, I also have a passion around business and leading and running and affecting other people. So, do you know what I mean? It's hard. Is architect, I mean, if you have something where you were born and you said, I want to build bridges, and then you go to school and you say, I want to build bridges, and that is your life, but that's not true with a lot of people. And so what I would add to what he said was continue to look for your passion, continue to grow, continue to like explore and be curious. It actually brings me to another one of our values is curiosity. When people are naturally curious, when they ask a lot of questions. So an example is when people come and interview and they have a list of questions there. That's kind of curious, but it's not really curious. It's not really curiosity. Curiosity is when questions come up in the moment as you say something. It's like, oh, well, tell me about that. Let me learn about that. Does that make sense? And
Yes.
So, it's another thing that sort of adds to the flavor around here.
I love that. So is it okay if we talk about the Salo brand for a minute?
Sure.
Okay. How did you come up with the name?
So how did we come up with a name? So John and I pulled together, and we had somebody from one of the big firms, and they helped pull us together and said, okay, we're going to come up with this name. And we brought in some people that we knew. We thought it was going to be super fun. And you get to the end of one of those sessions and you are exhausted because it doesn't just arrive like this, like, but you think it's going to do. But anyway, the work with that led us to where we are. And so Salo is a town in Finland. That it was a hub of activity where people used to network and conduct commerce. And it's kind of a long, convoluted way of how we got there. We wanted something, a couple of things. We wanted a real word or a real place, something connected to the earth. When about 15 years ago, when we were starting the company, a lot of these drug companies were making up new names, doing, like, oh, let's put these three things together. We wanted something that actually existed. So that was that. We wanted something 2 syllables, easy to say, easy to spell, and that had just sort of a little bit of lightness to it. And that's how Salo came to be.
Well, and it is really one of my favorites. And I have to show people this logo because it's so fantastic in every way.
I have it on my water bottle. How's that?
Yes! I love it. Yes. Living the brand. That's awesome. I'm kind of a brand snob only because it's what I do for a living. And so I'm always scrutinizing and dissecting and really trying to get inside the head of the brand and how it arrived and what it means and how it's perceived. And so, of course, when I come across one that I love, I'm just so infatuated with it. And I'll even keep things. Like I actually keep material forever. And so I'll have a library of, business resource books, but I also have a library of swag and collateral material and things like that. So I've actually kept some of your things, and I would love to share it with my audience if you don't mind.
Please do.
So when we met, you were so gracious to invite me to your anniversary party. And the first one was 2012. Is that right? Yeah, 2012. And this was the direct mail piece that I got in the mail, which I was like, OMG, it is so adorable. It was so adorable. And I don't remember which year the Salo Cat was. The Salo Cat it was 2012. It was 2012. So I go to the event.
Well, the Salo Cat is a series. So you
Series?
have one of them. I think the one you have is the second in the series.
Okay, so this is the Salo Cat. Now, here's what's really cool about this, you guys. I go to Amy's anniversary party, and most of them are very stiff. They just are. The people drone on and on about, what happened over the 12 months and blah, blah, blah. And you have to just really kind of stomach it because you are a guest, and right. But you walk into a Salo event and it is branded to the ceiling, like not even joking. And then you have the most amazing video. Your thank you and summary is short and sweet, but so branded. And I don't have the video to show, but I might attach one in the resources center because it's so good. It's so good, right? But you get there, and it's every single touch point. I always say the brand is from the point when you park your car, right? The experience to the building, everything inside, and then when you get back in your car. I mean, that is really, and you guys do it so well. And when we left, everyone greeted me by name. And I'm like, how in the world does anybody know who I am, right? But then when you leave, you could take your Salo Cat and you had them stacked. And this box, you guys, is ridiculous. They give you directions, okay? This is so brilliantly done. And it's every word that you guys chose was impeccable. The Salo Cat is very significant. I'm going to want you to tell the story on this. But the bum is branded, the bum. And I hope you don't mind, but I was so impressed by this. I took two. Okay. And I gifted one to my son. And I'm not even joking when I tell you that this is on my desk, prominently displayed. And there isn't much swag on my desk unless I truly love it. And he has his with him. So even at college, right? So tell us the story about the Salo Cat.
Yes, I will. So, and I would say a lot of our brand, so this intentionality, and from the very beginning, when we had almost no money, we bootstrapped it together as well. John and I have self-funded. We've really never taken any outside money. But what we did care about, and a lot of this came from John, was like, it has to be bigger than us, and we have to care about the brand. And so that's where we did spend money at the beginning, and it's always been something we've sort of care and feeded over time. And the Lucky Cat just sort of came to be because during the recession, it was not very easy. I think we all knew that. And there were a lot of things that we were just trying to figure out what to do. And so John, my business partner, was at an Asian restaurant and saw the Lucky Cat. And so he's like, oh, why don't we do that? So he brings in one of the Lucky Cats that you see in Asian markets or in a restaurant. And some people kind of like around the office were like, kind of rolled their eyes and got a little like, that's super cheesy. And it was, that's kind of the point. And so with that, we're like, well, it was only going to stay for a day or two, but now that it's kind of this cheesy thing, let's put it up. And so we had an award wall with some lights on it, and it became on this award wall. The kind of recession goes on. One ugly day, our office got broken into and stolen lots of things, computers and printers and projectors and a signed baseball, and our Lucky Cat was stolen as well. Okay. And so we were kind of like downtrodden. It's like business is down, economy bites, like worried about stuff all the time. And now even this, our Lucky Cat gets stolen. So we decided we are not going to let it down. Like we are not going to let that get us down. We went back out and got another Lucky Cat, and it kind of became a mascot for a period of time of like, we are not going to let someone else affect our own lives. So there's multiple different things. So we had a series of Lucky Cats. We had two in the series, and what we ended up doing with that one, which is a little bit more portable, is we said, if you tweet, so if you have that lucky cat and tweet something or put it out on social media somewhere, doing something you're passionate about, every time that happens, we'll put your name in a drawing. And every month, we drew out a name and gave $500 to the charity of that person's choice. And the whole idea of live your passion, live what you're doing, don't let others get you down, kind of affect your own luck, is what it is. So,
well, I love it. I, honest to God, I just love it. And I just think that I have to read this to people so they get some context. And I know you're going to think I'm a dork about this, but
well, it's meant for a little cheeky humor, right? It's supposed to be sort of not your average. Again, sort of the surprise and delight. We don't have to be stuffy, even though we're in finance. We can be human and be what we want. So
I know. And even with your color palette, and you even speak to it. So on the side of the box, I'm just going to quick read this. It says, meet Sailor Lucky Cat. In Japanese culture, Lucky Cat is known as a lucky charm. The left paw is extended to attract people and bring in customers. The color gray signifies reliability and intelligence. Orange represents energy, creativity, love of people, and determination. Blue is associated with trust, wisdom, and people doing the work they are meant to be doing. The symbol on the shield translates to good fortune. Cheers. And you guys just seriously did it perfectly, and it's so on brand. Like, it's literally so on brand. I love it. I'm just saying, I love it. And then the next year rolls around, and I get the number 13. Okay, so the number 13 looks like this. All right, so again, just super fabulous in every way. And then what happens on Lucky 13? Magic 13 ball. And I'm just like, when I saw year 12 and how you would put year 12 together, I'm like, you can't top the Lucky Cat. Like, you just can't. And then you come up with the Magic 8 ball, but Magic 13 ball. I'm like, oh, you guys are off the rails. You sell a very specific service, right? But you have taken this brand, it's like taken on a life of its own, and it's so cool. And like you said, and the perception of what you sell for a living, the perception of it can be a little bit dry, right? Just very transactional. And you've completely flipped that on its side.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, the 13 ball is also part of a series, so we never let anything die. It started on our 5-year anniversary, and we had the 5 ball. And so the 2 balls on a billiard table that are orange has been our signature color, are the 5 and the 13. So it started with the Magic 5 ball, which I'm not even sure if one exists, but that's the solid color ball. And the 13 is the orange stripe, right? So, or is it opposite? But anyway, so for 5-year, we did 5. For 13, yeah, the orange stripe ball. So that's also a series, yeah.
Oh, Mike, I didn't even know that about a billiard table.
Yes, that's how we got the 13 ball.
Oh my God, I could cry because it's so brilliant. Oh my gosh. And I love these. I treasure these. And you know what's funny? Like, not funny, haha, but funny, interesting, is that most swag winds up in the trash.
Yes, it does. And
not Salos.
Trying to figure out what to do. Something with a little stick power, something that is, again, that you would want to have on your desk. And so coming up with the next one is always hard. Although we do have these fun pop sockets now. Do you know pop sockets?
No!
So, well, all the kids have them. And one of our directors here saw that I had another pop socket on my phone, and lo and behold, they show up here, and now we're like 1,000 down. So pop sockets, they won't have the stay power that the 13 ball or the Lucky Cat have, but it's still kind of fun.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe the Lucky Cat will come back one of these days.
Well, and it's just such a treat for me to see. It's just such a treat for me to see how you put it all together and you live it. Like, you live the brand, honestly.
Thank you. It's fun. Yeah. It's super fun.
So You've talked a little bit about your brand's point of view. Um, how about your brand message? How do you communicate the message outwardly?
So a lot of our work is based on trust. When you're hiring somebody, it's hard. And when you're hiring somebody on a just-in-time point basis to get you from X to Y, you have to trust where it's coming from. And so a lot of our work is really done face-to-face through referrals, how we're talking through it. So we kind of consider our brand messaging and the work that we do, our thought leadership, to support that trust. And so our work a lot has been on thought leadership. How are we presenting things about hiring, items on employment, how to set your, how to know you have the right talent at the top. Those are things we talk about. We also talk about SEC and how you can, companies that go public and how we help them. So kind of that reinforcement of that deep knowledge is what we try to do.
Okay. And what about a plan? So a lot of people say to me, small business. They say, Kelly, there are books written about it. People say, don't waste your time on a business plan or a marketing plan. You just need to just go, boots on the ground, just go, try and sell. It's all about the sale, just figure it out. And I, being very old school, like structure and I like a plan. And 5 years ago when I was sitting in your office and you just bonked me on the head with the acorn, right? Where it's like, okay, without a plan, you're kind of a gerbil on a wheel going full out, and once in a while a piece of food shoots out the side, right? With your business, and you're much larger than a startup, how important, in your opinion, for any stage of business would be some kind of a plan?
Yeah, I think the combination together is what's important. I know a few people that started off businesses at the same time John and I did, and that was really about, they had a ton of planning. They had all these things like super sewn up, and we're like, I don't know, let's just go out and pick up the phone and start calling. And I would say we leapfrog them. And then there's a point in time where clearly that just execution didn't work for us. You needed something more solid and more sound. So in hindsight, what would I have done? Probably more planning with the execution that we did. So it's a combination. If you have a beautiful plan and don't execute, you will never have a business. If you execute only without a plan, and you probably won't have the business that you want. And so that kind of goes back to the question I asked you. When I think about business, when I think about the good and bad of having your own company, is you get to decide what it is. You get to decide, is it just going to be me? Is it going to be me and John? Is it going to be 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people? Is it going to be? And some of those are limiting. Some of them you might think, oh, these are external factors. But how you design it intentionally matters with what you want. So Kelly, just like you said at the beginning, where because of your family life and what you wanted to do, you didn't want something broader at a while back when you and I first met. And so you designed your business to do that, right? To support your family in a way. And now you're in a different spot where you want to bring on more, you want to do bigger and broader things. That's awesome too. So without some of that foresight of where am I going and what am I doing, it's hard to know. And so what I think is be comfortable in what you want. If you only ever want 3 or 4 people, that's okay. You will be able to find 3 or 4 people who want that. If you want a growth company, say it, make it happen, and then attract those people who want growth as well.
That's great advice. Really, really great advice. Well, and obviously you're proof it works. So
We have a ways to go. We're not to where we want, and I hope we never get to where we want. I hope it's how do we find that next thing? How do we keep expanding and growing? Whether it's doing more of the things that we do now, whether it's different markets, whether it's a disruptive technology, all of those things matter. So, and maybe not. I mean, we could easily just be in this market and be okay too. That's not what we want. And so how do we continue to expand it, both with planning and execution?
Right. So how do you spread the word about sale? You said that you do a lot of referral, a lot of one-to-one relationship building, but you are a large company at 65 million. That's significant, especially to my audience. And a lot of their challenge is, how do you spread the word? Like,
Yeah.
how do you, right? Like, how do you do it?
Well, we'll be bigger than that this year, just for the record. But anyway, how do we do it? You know, we weren't always a big company. 14 and a half years ago, it was two of us. That was it. It was two of us. And so this, every time you show up, it seems and feels the same. That's important. Consistency in what you say and what your message is and how you do it. And we just started. I read the book, it's Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point. And I don't know if you've ever done it, but I always go back to that in a variety of ways. But one is, you can't be the only person talking about you. There has to be multiple different sources. And so part of this connecting by us helping other people, you know, they would talk about us. And it honestly was one-on-one. And that just kind of grew and got bigger and bigger. And as we hired people, we hired them and trained them in a way to be able to say and act in the way that we wanted to. And a lot of that was from the core values. So it's you can say it now, like, oh, of course people know you, but they didn't know us then. And it's the consistency in the brand and the message and what we're saying, and delivering, doing what you say you're going to do every time, like under promising, over delivering every time. I mean, I would say those are the things that kind of sort of clipped it.
Was it hard in the beginning, Amy? I mean, I know that there's a lot of entrepreneurs who struggle, and it's just one step forward, two back, and it's such a grind, and they want to give up, and they hear all these statistics about how only 5% of businesses survive after the third year, and there's just a lot of negativity, and especially our current climate, there's not a whole lot of happiness and excitement right now. And I know that it ebbs and flows and it's temporary, but was it hard at the beginning? And then if it was, how did you overcome some of those typical roadblocks and hurdles of a startup?
If it was easy, everyone would do it. That's what I would say. It's like, it's not easy. It's hard all the time, and it's different degrees. In the beginning, I would say, yeah, it was hard because it was two of us, and are we going to be able to do it? But if it didn't work, we would probably take a job in corporate America or go do something else. You're really only affecting two families. Well, we now have almost 600 employees. So now it's hard too. And so challenges you have and things that you make or decisions that you make affect 600 families. That's a lot different. And so what I would say is, if you think it's hard now, maybe you're not cut out for it, because it doesn't get any easier. Everyone thinks like, oh, it's easier, you have it. Like, there's just different problems, and you have to want to have those issues. You just do. You have to want to enjoy it and see it as what is possible versus this is hard. And believe me, there are definitely hard days. There's hard weeks. There's hard months. Having a support system that helps you, I think, is really important. A support system both in and out. You mentioned my really good friend Jennifer Smith. Like, we have each other, and there are times where it is like the SOS call of like, how am I going to go on? What am I going to do? How do I handle this? Or you're in a values, you're in a place. I think the hardest part is when you're in something that you know it's the decision, the right decision, but gosh, it's a lot of work to be able to do that. I think that's what's really hard. So if you think it's hard when you're little, then maybe it's not right. I think those that make it are like, okay, what is possible? How am I going to do this? What do we get through? Because those are the problems that help when you get bigger.
Well, that's very, very good message. Like I think you just hit the nail right on the head. And a lot of my interviews are sprinkled with positivity and, attaboy, and you can do it. But I think that the fact of the matter is right there, and you just gave me a whole nother learning lesson 5 years later, which is it's going to be hard all the way through. So, pull up your big girl panties and decide that is going to be your way of life, and you're just going to push through, right? Because I have those moments too, and I always just really, I wait, like I take a temperature check of, my team's very small, and my team, are they happy? We recently, last year, had a client that was the worst of record, and it was a mutiny. I mean, my whole team called me up and said, we won't work with another client like this. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I've never had a scenario materialize like this. And as I've been doing this a long time, the first half in corporate and second half on my own as an entrepreneur, but wow, 30 years of experience. And I, of course, came across this new thing, this uncharted water, and I'm like, holy crap. So I really appreciate you saying that there's always a degree of hard.
Yeah. And you have to decide, is that the hard that you want? And does it challenge you? When you get through it, are you then energized? Are you like, oh God, I was stuck there, but we were able to grow, more, develop, and now we're better off as it? That, to me, that rush at the end is worth the pain. And so whether you're working out, whether it's your kids, when you're working out, if it doesn't, bust up your muscles a little bit, it's probably not working. If you're not stretching your muscles, you're not growing. And so you want those little tears, because those little tears then repair with time, and then you get stronger. It's when there's the big rips, then those are harder. But the little tears throughout time, if you can think about it, then it's not hard. You're like, okay, how do I take this challenge, and how do I get us to the other end? If just kind of changing your mindset around it is what I found that's helped a little bit.
I love that. Thank you for that golden nugget. That's amazing. So can we talk just a quick second about competition? That's another big area of contention for my students, which is it's just fiercely competitive. Every single industry, every possible scenario, there is competition. And I'm just curious how you deal with yours.
Yeah. So one, accepting that that's just what it is. I mean, like, oh, our business is so competitive. It's like they all are. It just is. Otherwise, it wouldn't be business. Again, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And it's just not. I mean, that part isn't easy. So I would say on your competition, know your competition, know them well, know what they do very, very well, know what they do better than you. There are things that they will do. And then find, again, whether it's your brand or your niche, what do you do better than anyone else? And focusing on that and being able to box yourself or the competition in, being able to really highlight what those differences are. I think that's the only way to go about competition. And then do what you say you're going to do every time. Be better than what they expect and outshine, outperform. That's the only way to do it.
That's great advice. So, okay, I only have a couple last questions for you. Okay. All right. So if you had the power to go back to the beginning, knowing then what you know now, would you have done anything differently?
Yeah, I would have done thousands of things differently. Thousands. Yes, we make mistakes all the time. I mean, it's like one mistake after another, one fall after another. Yes. So if anyone thinks, I think I had this idea that I would have this company that everybody would want to work at all the time, that we would really create sort of this utopia. And, maybe for a brief period of time that exists, but people change, companies change, what companies need. And so I had to erase that. What I would do, earlier. I think one of the bigger things I would do earlier is sort of this group of people, whether it's an advisory board, whether it's an outside coach, whether it was a mentor. I would have engaged people earlier in that way. Somebody that has some sort of kind of continued care about your company. So, for example, if I go to my friends and tell them kind of what's going on, they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, that sucks," you know, because they want me to feel better, but they don't necessarily want the company to operate better. They're not the ones that say, "Actually, how you showed up there wasn't very good, and I could see why people wouldn't follow you into this next thing because you aren't acting like a leader." Like that sort of real talk is how you kind of continue to grow. And so John and I both have a business coach, which has been really, really useful. And we also have an advisory board, and which has morphed over time. We do pay our board, but even as a startup, you can find people. I know, and it can morph and change, but how can you utilize people that you know that would care, that can help you make some of these decisions to get out of the pitfalls? I wish I would have done that.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. What advice would you give an early stage business owner or an entrepreneur regarding their brand, specifically around their brand? And then I would love a piece of business advice, because people struggle. And what I mean by that is oftentimes they put the cart before the horse, and they have their cousin Sue create a logo for them, and then they slap up a website, and then they wait, and then nothing happens. And then they find out about me or do a little research and realize that you kind of have to have a point of view. You have to have differentiators. You have to have a brand. And they're like, crap, now I have to start over, and I've already spent the money. And so they struggle with that piece, like the value of a brand, if a brand actually has value, if you can monetize as a result of it. But then also business advice where people are just winging it. It just throws some spaghetti at the wall. And so having gone through all that you have over the past 15 years, what advice would you give regarding brand and business?
Yeah, I would say, brand is emotion. It's hard to explain what it is, but you know it when you see it. Like if I were to say Coke, that has a brand, you can conjure up lots of different adjectives just by that word. Nike, same thing. And so Salo, hopefully, kind of the same thing. None of those are the same. And so I would say sort of this intentionality of what do you want it to mean, the meaning behind it, the why, you started with what's your why. I would say that because your actions, it's not just the physical manifestation of the logo. The logo is a piece, and some people think logo is brand. It's not. It's your space. It's how you answer the phone. It's who shows up. It's how you deliver what you're doing. It's the packaging that things come in. All of that, it's how people feel when they interact with you. That is what brand is. And if you're thinking of it just as a logo, then a logo is a logo. It's not kind of everything. So one example, like here, we have we want everybody greeted by a human with their first name. So we know who's coming into the office and who's not. And we have a first impression specialist. So when you come in, we want it to be different than when you go in anywhere else. That's an example. That isn't the logo, but is part of our brand. Mm-hmm. You felt it clearly when you were here.
Yes, I did. I felt it. And what about a piece of business advice for a startup?
I am going to go back to my farming roots. Like, you have to work hard. You have to work harder than the average person. If you want a job, go get a job. This is a way of life. And it is. It's all consuming all the time. And you have to want it to be all consuming all the time for it to really to go. And I'd say work hard, execution and planning together. I know kind of a lot of the things that you brought up, Kelly. You've got all the pieces. Now they just have to come together with a little bit of luck.
Yes, I love this thing. Last thing, Amy, I'll let you go. What's next for Salo?
Yeah, we're looking at that right now. Kind of what's next. We're in 2 markets now. We would look to expand as that continues to go. For us, because our brand is so important, we don't want to expand too fast because we don't want it to take up more than what we're able to do, and keep our brand whole. So that's part of it. And then also, how does technology disrupt what's going to happen here? We're kind of spending a little bit of time on that. So lots of good things to come.
I love it. Amy, thank you so much for agreeing to do this for me.
Well, you're welcome. I think you're my biggest fan. So I feel like I'm uplifted just by hearing the interactions that you've had. And that is at the end of the day what feels great. When you've helped someone and you didn't even realize that you were doing it. Sometimes you don't know in the day to day. So that means a lot to me too. And keep up the good work and keep helping these entrepreneurs.
Well, thank you. I feel like I have arrived. I turned 50, as I have shared on social media quite a bit in April. And it was when the front number turns over, it's a little bit surreal. Like I was not impacted at 20, 30, 40, but the 50 number, it's a little bit unnerving to some degree, you know. But it also affords me an amazing opportunity to give back in a much bigger way because I feel like everything was a dress rehearsal for this moment, and to be able to create an environment where I can teach others and provide a service that will allow them to make smart business decisions for themselves means everything to me. And it's just really at the capstone of my life. And I feel so excited about it. And I know that it shows. And so just being able to talk with you or have you on speed dial, and it just means so much, and the extension of it is so powerful, and I'm really excited, and I really do mean it when I say that you impacted me in a big way 5 years ago, and it's been this 5-year plan.
Pay it forward.
Yes, pay it forward. Well, Amy, thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And everyone, please Google Salo. Please, you have got and check out Amy. She is a force to be reckoned with. And just connect with her on LinkedIn and just learn about her culture. It's just so amazing. And for more information about Salo, go to salollc.com. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you on the next Brand Chat. Bye-bye. Want to learn more insider secrets on branding from the big name brands and learn how to make more money with your own brand? You'll find all of that and more inside my brand school. Just go to brandingformoolah.com and sign up.